There's a version of honesty that gets taught to you early. Be open, be consistent, treat everyone the same. It sounds like integrity. It's actually a liability. Because the person across from you isn't operating with the same rulebook. And handing everyone the same level of access means you've already lost the first move. Openness and readability aren't the same thing. When you behave identically regardless of who's watching, people learn your patterns, what pushes your buttons, what gets you to fold, where your soft spots are. That's not connection. That's reconnaissance. A sharper mind controls the information it puts out. Not everything needs to be said. Not everyone has earned it. Oversharing disguises itself as sincerity. But spilling your vulnerabilities early doesn't build trust. It builds exposure. Some people absorb what you tell them because they genuinely care. Others file it. You usually can't tell which is which until it's too late, which is exactly why timing and selectivity matter more than most people admit. People probe. Not always deliberately. It's just the way social dynamics work. A comment gets floated to see how far you'll go. A request gets made to see how much you'll bend. If you explain yourself at length every time you're challenged, if you react immediately to every jab, you've handed over a map of yourself. And whoever holds your map takes you wherever they want. Ambiguity isn't manipulation. Used carefully, it's armor. The person who's hard to read gets approached differently, with more consideration, more caution. That caution is a form of respect. People don't underestimate what they can't fully figure out. Choosing when and how to respond creates uncertainty. Reacting to everything removes it. And uncertainty, in any situation where stakes are real, works in your favor. This isn't about being someone different with every person. It's about deciding how much of yourself each relationship has actually earned. Delay your reaction. That's where the real leverage is. Most people operate on reflex. Someone raises their voice. You raise yours. Someone dismisses you. You rush to defend yourself. Someone praises you. You open right up. These responses feel natural because they are. They're also completely transparent. Whoever runs on instinct is easy to map, and whoever's easy to map is easy to control. The pause changes everything. When you hold back your first response, you've created a gap between the provocation and your answer, where you're actually thinking instead of just reacting. That's not weakness or passivity. It's the most active form of control there is. When you don't immediately respond, the other person's move lands nowhere. Most people make a play and wait for the counter move. When it doesn't come, they get unsettled. That unsettlement belongs to you. Firing back in the moment releases pressure for you, but it also hands the other person exactly what they needed. The exchange is over. They got a reaction. The score is settled. Stay quiet and the score stays open. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. Not knowing what you're thinking, what you're about to do, that puts people on edge and makes them careful. Careful is where you want them. Waiting is also intelligence gathering. The first thing said isn't always the real thing. The first move you see might have motivations you haven't uncovered yet. Respond immediately, and you're working with partial information. Wait, and the picture fills itself in. A person's actual intention usually surfaces on the second or third move. Patient people see it. Impulsive people get taken in by the opening. None of this means suppressing how you feel. That's a different failure mode. It builds up and eventually detonates. The point is to channel it. Feel the anger, but don't speak from it. Know the hurt, but don't make decisions out of it. There's a significant difference between experiencing something and being run by it. The discipline to live in that gap is what makes you unpredictable. And whoever can't be predicted gets handled with more care. Read what people want, not what they say. Words are comfortable, a friendly tone, a supportive phrase. These things lower your guard, and they're supposed to. But words are often performance rather than interior. The more useful question, almost always, is what's behind them. When someone supports you, that's worth examining. What do they get from it? What need are you meeting for them? Visibility, credibility, access to something. Are they genuinely in your corner? Or are you a useful rung? These aren't paranoid questions. They're the questions that separate clarity from wishful thinking. And if someone is working against you, calling them an enemy tells you almost nothing. Sabotage almost always comes from fear. The fear that you're occupying space they consider theirs, reducing their influence, making them look smaller by comparison. When you understand that their move comes from threat, not malice, it stops being personal. And when it stops being personal, you can respond from strategy instead of emotion. Seeing human nature clearly isn't cynicism, it's just accuracy. Status, security, belonging, power. These drive behavior constantly, including the behavior of people who would describe themselves as purely principled. The kind gesture sometimes comes from genuine affection. Sometimes it's a down payment on a future ask. Knowing that doesn't harden you, it just prepares you. The naive mistake is projecting. If you act in good faith, you assume others do too. If you're loyal, you don't seriously entertain betrayal. But you're reading other people through your own filters, seeing them as you want them to be, rather than what they actually are. That projection has a cost, and it's usually paid all at once. Behavior is the real information. If someone says they value you, look at how they use their time around you. If someone claims to have your back, watch where they stand when there's real risk. Words cost nothing. Actions cost something. Whoever is willing to pay that cost is showing you something true. Stop looking for approval. Start building a position. The need to be liked seems benign. Acceptance, belonging, not being excluded, these are fundamental. But when that need starts driving decisions, it becomes a ceiling. You edit what you say before saying it. You delay moves to see who might push back. You mistake conflict avoidance for wisdom. Constantly adapting erodes you. The edges go soft. The clarity blurs. The risk tolerance drops. But anything meaningful almost always creates discomfort somewhere. Trying to keep everyone comfortable guarantees you stay invisible, and invisible people don't influence anything. In most power dynamics, excessive accommodation signals that you can be redirected. People, often without realizing it, respect the person who holds a line more than the person who agrees readily. That line doesn't have to be delivered with aggression. It's just knowing what matters to you and not pretending otherwise. When you stop adjusting yourself to manage other people's reactions, your thinking gets simpler. The constant loop, take a step, scan the room, modify if needed, creates a kind of dependency. An internal reference point breaks that loop. You make a decision and carry it. Other people's reactions might shift the tactics, but they don't redirect the goal. That consistency is what starts to generate real respect. And respect is more durable than affection, because affection follows mood. Respect follows position. The people who pull away when you stop accommodating them aren't a loss. They're useful information. They were there because you were pliable. When you became less so, the relationship lost its function for them. What you're left with is cleaner. Don't explain your worth. Make it felt. Someone who constantly references their own value is, underneath it, trying to convince. Past accomplishments, good intentions, how much they've done. From the outside, it can look like confidence, but it's actually insecurity looking for somewhere to land. Real value doesn't need to be announced. When it does, something's off. Putting your achievements on display hands the frame to whoever's watching. They evaluate, categorize, assign a rank. The one with leverage isn't the one being assessed. It's the one doing the assessing. Every time you justify or sell yourself, your position becomes a debate. Real weight is quiet. It doesn't need external confirmation. The way you carry yourself, where you set your limits, what you don't bother explaining, all of it communicates before you've said a word. Whoever isn't rushing, whoever isn't filling silence unnecessarily, whoever doesn't chase approval gets unconsciously associated with someone who has options. And whoever has options doesn't need to be anywhere they don't choose to be. Standards don't need speeches. Apply them. When you don't tolerate something, don't tolerate it. When you decline something that isn't at your level, decline it. It makes no noise, but over time it builds a clear picture of where your lines are. People learn without being told. In negotiation, this shows up immediately. Whoever talks more is usually whoever needs more. They explain, justify, try to persuade the other side into agreement. Whoever stays quiet has alternatives. Whoever has alternatives has time. Whoever has time doesn't have pressure. And without pressure, the weight shifts toward you. Value isn't built by announcing it. It's built through consistent action observed over time. One clear result outweighs an entire spoken resume. Don't try to seem valuable. Produce something. If someone passes on it, they should walk away feeling like they left something behind. That feeling isn't created with words. Guard your energy. Keep your distance. When you bring the same emotional intensity to every person and situation, you might feel generous in the short term. Long term, you hollow yourself out. Energy, time, attention. None of these are unlimited, and distributing them without any filter means there's nothing left for what actually matters. Most people figure this out too late. They've spent themselves on everyone who asked and can't understand why they're running on empty. Exhaustion usually isn't from working too hard. It's from not knowing who to say no to. There are people who want proximity to you only as long as it serves something for them. When the balance shifts, they shift. Seeing this clearly isn't bitterness. It's just realism. And realism is protective. Distance gets misread as coldness. But conscious distance is just filtering, deciding who gets access and at what level. Not every request for closeness has to be honored. Not everyone who wants your inner world has earned it. What's always available stops being valued. Unlimited proximity, over time, quietly destroys the respect that brought someone close in the first place. Some conflicts, even when won, cost more than they're worth. Some misunderstandings aren't worth correcting. Some provocations aren't worth the energy of a response. When you spend your force on low-stakes friction, you have nothing left for what actually moves the needle. Selectivity isn't a character flaw, it's resource management. People probe limits constantly, usually without full awareness that they're doing it. If you give more than expected once, that becomes the baseline. If you absorb something once without response, it gets repeated. Limits don't set themselves. And without them, even well-intentioned people develop habits that gradually work against you. The inner circle that matters is small and stable. Not a wide, scattered network of people who know your name, but not your situation. A smaller group built on actual mutual respect. Equal access to everyone keeps every relationship superficial. Superficial relationships are also the first to evaporate when something real happens.
Instead of revenge, change your level.
The impulse to make someone pay is understandable. Anger creates fuel. Justice feels like a reason to act. Watching someone suffer produces something that resembles satisfaction. But revenge is one of the worst investments you can make with your time and focus. It anchors you to something that's already happened. The other person stays at the center of your story and keeps setting your direction, which means you're still dependent on them, just in a different way. The real move is leaving the level where the conflict happened. When you fight someone on their own terrain, you've accepted their terms. When you change levels, the whole landscape changes. Yelling, exposing someone, trying to publicly humiliate them. Easy. Reaching a point where you no longer need to cross paths with them at all. That's harder, and it lasts longer. Revenge is backward-facing. You replay the episode, build alternate versions of how it could have gone, rehearse what you should have said. All of it burns energy that could go towards something real. A forward-looking mind takes what happened, extracts what's useful from it, and shifts attention ahead. Not because the anger is suppressed, because the goal changed. The goal isn't for them to fall, it's for you to rise. Rising in silence is the sharpest possible response. When you stop engaging, the other person loses their reference point. When you put your energy into your own growth instead of their downfall, the distance between you opens on its own. Over time, that distance becomes visible to everyone. People who dismissed you adjust their tone. Not because you gave a speech, because your position changed. You said nothing. The gap said everything. Revenge produces a moment. Changing your level produces a direction. And when the direction is clear, old scores stop mattering. You're somewhere else now. That's the answer. It doesn't require explanation.